About 1971, 72, my friend Dave and I, we went on a trip to Vernon, BC from Edmonton. Dave's girlfriend, I think his first girlfriend, was with her family out at Owl's Nest Resort, Lake Kalamalka, Vernon, BC. So he said, Kev, we got to go there. And I said, fine, sounds good. So we actually hitchhiked. And like we did a lot of different trips. We did biking trips, and we did hitchhiking trips, and like I did that one bus trip by myself. So we were trying to hitchhike, and hitchhiking was not working out very well. But we had no choice. So we were on the side of the highway for many, many hours trying to get a ride. The problem was during that time, someone was kidnapping women and murdering them. So there was the reputation of the Highway of Tears was just being built during that time. So nobody wanted to pick up hitchhikers. Now, when I was a kid, picking up hitchhikers was very common because it was supposed to be, you know, trust your fellow man, don't trust anybody over 30, but trust your fellow young people, right? High school and university, that type of a thing. And we believed in this whole hitchhiking, you know, sharing a ride. If you've got a car, give somebody a ride. And if you're hitchhiking, then just stick out your thumb, you'll get a ride. So we hitchhiked all the way to Vernon, and we had a lot of adventures there. One of the things we started to do was Dave and I would spend all this money. Like I think Dave went on that trip with $16 in his pocket. And I would have been, like the both of us would have been about 14 or 15, just turned 15 maybe. I left with $8 in my pocket, and I came back with, I think, 4. And Dave left with $16 in his pocket, and he came back with nothing. And this, you know, just kind of showed you our saving habits in those days and how cheap everything was. But the thing is, Dave and I, we never shared bank accounts or money or anything. It's not that we weren't friendly. We definitely would have helped each other out if we needed money. It's just that we just had different spending habits. He always found something to spend money on that I thought was a waste, and he probably thought I was too cheap or something. But we would take money and a backpack full of groceries, you know, lots of canned food, lots of things that will store well and that you could make over a campfire. However, it was nice to go into Vernon and have a milkshake. We got into that habit. We'd go in there every afternoon. We'd do whatever we were going to do during the morning and over lunch hour. Sometime in the afternoon, we would hitch a ride into Vernon, and we would go to a Dairy Queen on Main Street, and I would always have a strawberry milkshake, and he'd have something else. I don't know what else. So we'd always sit at the same table and in the same spots, because the whole place was empty by the time he and I were there. Except towards the end, well, mostly empty, put it that way. So I was sitting in my usual spot. Now, my usual spot was facing the big panoramic front windows. There was no obstruction to a street view. I saw everything that was going on the street. Dave was sitting facing me, so his back was to that window, facing towards the kitchen. We were there every day. Nothing interesting happened until this one day. I was sitting in my usual spot, and I was watching 2 motorcycles off to my left-hand side, and I hear this ring, 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 like they're gunning their engines. And I could see they're about to race. And I saw the light turn green, and I saw them take off, and these guys were accelerating like crazy. They're passing people. I don't know how fast they were going. It could have been, you know, 50, 60 miles an hour by the time they got up to where I was sitting, because they were quite a ways off to the left, but they were accelerating. These are motorcycles. They can accelerate fast. Okay. So they're racing right in front of the Dairy Queen. I see the far guy, like there's 2 lanes, okay, going past me. 2 lanes going this way, and across there was just a white line, and then there's 2 lanes going this way. So they're closest to me. Okay, so of the 2 lanes that are closest to me, there's 2 motorcycles, they're racing. The guy further away from me, he goes into the oncoming lane. And I'm thinking, what? And I'm watching. My eyes are completely fixated on this. The guy closest to me, he slams on the back brake and he goes out of control. He lays it down on the pavement and he is shedding sparks all the way down the road. Sparks and sparks and sparks. And the driver came off the bike and he's kind of spinning off in one direction. The passenger is riding the bike. The passenger rides the bike while it's sliding sideways, and then bam, it's smashed into the side of a really long camper trailer. A camper trailer, a car pulling a camper trailer had turned left in front of them while they were racing, and the camper trailer blocked off both lanes. The guy farthest from me, he was able to get around and he took off. The closest guy, he's the one who laid it down. And as that bike sliding sideways, sparks flying everywhere, the passenger stayed on that bike right until it smashed into the underside of the camper trailer, meaning that the guy's leg got squashed between the bottom edge of the camper trailer and his motorcycle. It bounced out of that spot, so it went slam and then spun a little bit and he was freed. So it crushed his leg. So he jumps off of the bike finally. I think the crack kind of separated him and the bike. He is hopping around on one leg, screaming, and the other few people in the Dairy Queen with me, we all stood. I said, okay, I remember I did this. I'm watching, right? And I go, look at that. And I stood up. Dave stood up. Everybody around us stood up. And we just took off. Of course, we brought our milkshakes with us. So we went out onto the street. The guy is in a crumpled up state on the side of the road. He's still got his helmet on. He's got a leather jacket on, unconscious, and he's got this giant bulge out of his back. And I'm thinking, this guy's all messed up inside, crushed up, broken ribs, all like through a meat grinder and whatever. And the whole crowd is around there. So somebody called the cops. Somebody said, get a blanket. Well, that's not going to help much. It's summer. He doesn't need a blanket. He needs an ambulance. So the ambulance was called. They pulled up, took that guy away on a gurney, and a cop came up to the crowd, and the cop looks at all of us. He says, did anybody see what happened? I wasn't going to say anything. I don't want to get in trouble. So what does Dave do? Dave goes like this. He goes, he did. Thanks for turning me in, Dave. So anyway, I gave my statement to the cop. I said exactly what I just told you. And he said, okay, thank you. That was it. Whoa, wow, that was the talk of the town for weeks, right? So we went back to our campsite, and of course, I think the girlfriend's name was Barrett. Told Barrett's parents and all this. Dave hung out with Barrett and the parents. I was by myself if Dave was with his girlfriend. I didn't want to be a third wheel, right? So I'm doing something else. Sleeping, I don't know, swimming, whatever. But Dave didn't ignore me. I mean, he came and we did lots of things together with him and Barrett and me, and she had another friend. And anyway, that was part one of that story. Almost a year goes by, maybe 8-9 months. That was the summer. So the next year, I get a letter in the mail, a paper letter. And who's it from? The lawyer representing the motorcycle guy who hit the trailer. They said, can you give us a statement of what happened, called an affidavit, right? So I wrote out in my own handwriting what had happened, signed my name, dated it, and I mailed it back. About 2 months later, a letter comes back. And it's from, oh, wait a sec, sorry, I got it reversed. The first letter was from the trailer driver's insurance company. The second letter was from the lawyer representing the biker. Okay, now I have it the right way around. So, okay, in my 15-year-old brain, I knew that this was trying to say I was a liar, or I remembered wrong, or whatever. And the letter said, this is the very first time I disobeyed a person of authority that, you know, not related to me. And the second letter, they wanted me to write out a statement in my own handwriting, date it, and sign it. I'm thinking, you bastards, you are looking for some little tiny word that I'm going to change differently. They know I don't have a photocopier, I'm a kid. So I don't know exactly what I said. If I change even one word, they're going to say, oh, look, he's a liar. His story changed suddenly. I was old enough to know what was going down. I hadn't watched any cop shows, no lawyer shows. I just knew it had this greasy feeling to it. So I wrote him a letter back. I said, please refer to my first letter. It contains all the information that you are asking for. Stamped, signed, sealed, delivered. Okay? Then, about a couple weeks later, whatever, I get a letter from this is again the insurance, the guy's lawyer that was the car driver, who turned left, right? Okay, so I'm outside, I'm getting eaten by mosquitoes, that's why I'm bending over. I get a third letter. The third letter says, Dear Kevin Morris, please find enclosed 2 airplane tickets to come to Vernon on such and such a day. It was, I think, June, middle of June or something. We will pick you up at the airport by limousine. You will come to the courthouse and you will testify in person. I'm thinking, wow, somebody's really digging in their heels on this. Must be a lot of damages. And I'm wondering, the guy must have died. Like the guy that I saw that was all crumpled up, unconscious, lying on the road, got taken away by an ambulance. I figured he died, so this is why it's so serious. So I say, heck yeah. So they say you're going to get free food, free airline, free limousine. Just have to come to the courthouse, testify, 10 in the morning, the rest of the day is yours. Heck yeah. So I don't know how I got to the airport, but I did. It was the municipal. So I got there by bus. That's what it was. Edmonton City bus. You could take an Edmonton City bus to the municipal, fly out to Vernon. I did fly out to Vernon. Beautiful summer day. I got in my limo ride. You know what it was? It's an old Army school bus with the word limousine printed in Army printing, Army font on the side. Thinking, oh, this is a letdown. So they take me to the courthouse. I go in the courthouse, and some people come out with the lawyer. They say, hi, Kevin, you're here. Good, thanks for coming. He disappears. Another group of people comes out. They look at me. I think they were sizing me up if they're going to intimidate me to change my story. They came out. They witnessed that I was there in person, ready to testify. And it's the guy who was on the sidewalk. He wasn't badly hurt. He was knocked out. But he's got a hunchback. The guy's got a gigantic bulge on his back. Deformity from birth. It wasn't a bunch of scrambled up ribs. I had these nightmares for I don't know how long, thinking he's all chopped up. No, he was born that way. So they look at me, they disappear. Then the lawyer that had called me down came out to the waiting area. He says, Kev, thank you very much for showing up. The other guy, I guess he'd be the plaintiff, which was the guy driving the motorcycle who had accused the car driver, said he's pleaded guilty or settled out of court. He decided to settle or whatever. They just don't need me anymore. I said, wow, that was easy. He says, you still have your cash or voucher, whatever, for meals. So go enjoy the day, and your flight takes off at 5 or something like that. So I had the day in Vernon. I walked around. It's a beautiful little town. Had nothing to do. I went to the local junior high there, and I just walked in. And I'm looking at all the people in the classrooms, and you know, no one's really paying attention to me. Maybe one or two kids notices me walking by in a hallway. And then it was after school, and I talked to a few of the kids there. I was sitting under a tree, I remember, and it was raining on me, but it was a sunny day and there was no clouds in the sky. Well, this kind of tree, maybe it's a weeping willow or something. Anyway, it's like little tiny raindrops. It's raining on you if you stand under this tree. I thought that was weird. Interesting though. So I caught my limousine back out to the plane, and then I flew back to Edmonton, and what a story I had to tell. Hope you enjoyed it. More later.